Okay.
So yeah.
Well, she's not
Yeah.
relevant, so there. Welcome to 42, Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as human beings. Based on the 21 grams experiment by Dr. Duncan MacDougall, who concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. In this podcast, we will explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. In this episode, we're changing things up. We're taking a risk and trying new things. Why? Because whoever won by playing safe, except in the terms of sexual health. Today, we are educating the children on the South Asian drag scene in Toronto. We have a rare opportunity where I get to sit with one of our drag elders and one of our newest additions to the scene. I'm super excited to chat with Haresh Daswani, aka Kiki Karachi, and Humza Aliman, aka Mango Lasi. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are
Wonderful.
you?
I'm not
Good.
sure if I like hearing myself referred to as an elder.
But like in the most respectful way, an elder, not in a cunty way.
A pioneer, a pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Miss Karachi, I mean, you get the lead. How would you like us to refer to you?
Party girl.
Party girl. Okay.
No, I'm good. I did like pioneer. That had a better ring to it, I think, for me anyway.
Thanks, Hamza. Come to the rescue. All right, so let's just start with the basics. Let's just start with, all right, so let me start with you. When did you start doing drag and what inspired it?
My earliest memories of doing drag was drag and lip sync at the same time. Was when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old.
I would
Back
love
in
that.
Singapore, where I grew up, we used to have a Hindi a music hour, like Bollywood music hour on the radio, the one radio that was there. So this is probably like in early 60s I'm talking about.
Okay.
And uh, and then so the Bollywood music would come on around that time. And then one day I just got up and danced. I picked up a small little broom, uh, like those little stick things, and I started
Oh my
dancing with
God.
this, and everybody in the house was I mean, we had a few servants and all, like they were amazed because I was obviously lip syncing the thing too. I wish YouTube existed then because I think somebody would have taken
That would have went viral for sure.
it. Yeah, and then over time they used to encourage me, and then they opened the front gate, the doors, and then Singapore, just passers-by, like Chinese men, Malay men, or women, would just stand at the gate and just watch. Every now and then, like I don't know how often we did it, but I do have some memories around it.
Oh
Yeah,
my God, you had a full-on audience at the age of 3. I'm like,
3 or 4, I don't know
Singapore.
how old I was.
Wow, you started really early. That's awesome. Do you remember the name? Do you remember the song? Do you remember that first song?
No, it's too long ago, so I don't remember.
If you had to take a guess, what do you think it would have been?
Uh, no, I can't.
No.
I can't even. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, how about you, Hamza? Tell us about when did you start doing drag and what inspired it?
I started 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and it was on. I'm a Halloween queen, so I started on Halloween. My partner at the time, we were obsessed with Drag Race,
Right.
um, and I had known about drag before then. So my first like exposure, I guess, to any kind of gender bendy stuff was like the Hijra community in Pakistan.
Right.
So every time I've been back 3 times, so like every time I'd be like mesmerized by them. And then here, Jackie Beat was the first drag queen I saw online. And she did like parodies to songs, and she did a parody to Baby Got Back called Baby Got Front, and it was hilarious. And yeah, and then I started going to like cruise and tangos, and yeah, I've been obsessed with drag since then, I guess. And then a year after I started drag, I went to LA for RuPaul's Drag Con,
Okay.
and that's where it like blew up for me. I was photographed by a lot of important people and like big magazines, and my Instagram blew up after that, and yeah, it's just nice to be recognized like that.
Yeah. Okay, so what does like little brown boy from Toronto? Are you originally from Toronto?
Born and raised in Mississauga.
Born and very important to say. Born and raised
Yeah,
in
but I live in
Mississauga.
Toronto now, so.
It's funny. I'm like a North York born. I'll still be like, no. I live in Toronto now, and like it's still a big GTA, but I'm like, for me, it still makes a difference. Like,
yeah,
North York is
I
still
live downtown now.
saga.
I moved downtown in December, so.
So let's talk about how did you come up with Mango Lasi? How did that name? How did you come up with that name?
It was actually Mango Lasi, so Manghoe. But I found out earlier this year, middle last year, mid 2020, like just after the pandemic started, that the word "ho" has like anti-blackness associated with it, and it's just derogatory. So I just took that out. And Mango Lassi works. It's food.
Yeah. And what adding having a South Asian connotation to your name important to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like almost everything I've done in drag has some kind of South Asian flair to it, whether it be the jewelry, the clothes, the accessories, the song. My first like number that I performed to was at Rangila 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It's hitting 3 years in April.
Oh.
Yeah, and
you had a big blunt.
Sorry?
Did you have a big blunt with you?
Oh yeah, it was that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did Dum Mado Dum. And it was 420, so it just everything worked out so well. Yeah.
Miss Kiki Karachi, tell us about you. How did you come up with Kiki Karachi, and was adding a South Asian twist important to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an easy question to answer. That was it important? So, absolutely, it was very important. And I was also, so this is after I moved to Canada in around 1990. I soon met up with the Kush group. Are you familiar with the Kush folks?
I am, but I think that tell our community what the Kush group is about. Yeah.
Yeah. So South Asian. Originally was South Asian, like I don't know exactly what they called it, but South Asian gay and lesbian group. And we used to meet at the 519. So when I first came, there were men and women, so gay, lesbian, bisexual, and they didn't have the full, all the others behind that. Anyway, so, but at some point, I do recall there was some kind of agreement for the women to, I think the women decided they wanted their own space. So then it became mainly a South Asian gay men's group. In any case, so through that, we were having like little events to do some fundraising. And somebody talked about maybe doing drag. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll do it. So I did. And then, it was a nice, people enjoyed it. And then soon after that, people started asking me, people as my friends, say, you should, what do you call yourself? You should have a name. I'm like, oh, I guess. And then so we brainstormed on a name. So first of all, I had to have a South Asian feel to it. So my family is originally from Hyderabad, Sindh, which is currently in Pakistan, but they left before partition and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought of like, how do I incorporate India and where Pakistan currently is into my name, because my heritage is from there. And Hyderabad is pretty much right next to Karachi, like very close. And so anyway, so we thought of names like Benazir, Gandhi, or Indira Bhutto, and that didn't go well with some people. No, I did not call myself that, but these were brainstorming ideas. And so people thought, maybe a bit too political. And so I agreed. I just want to have fun. I don't want to make this into a big brouhaha. So, and then suddenly Kiki Karachi rolled out of my tongue. So, or maybe it was one of my friends who came up with it, maybe Nelson. But anyway, so yeah, so Kiki Karachi.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what this? Go ahead.
Sorry, like coming up with the names was like a struggle for me too, because my original drag name, like when I when I was just fooling around
Okay.
with makeup was Khadija Cockshot. But I changed it because Khadija is the prophet's wife.
Right.
And I was like, if I somehow get big, like someone's gonna kill me for this, like for naming myself after the prophet's wife. So
Right.
I changed it.
It's interesting. Like I feel like so there's 3 queens here that are all like Muslim based. Like Karachi, like you're from Pakistan, you're from Hyderabad, my family's from Sindh and libraries. Like those cool that we have this connection. I mean, maybe my next
Yeah.
interview needs to be with some Hindu queens, but
My family's Hindu. They left
oh, okay. But they lived in
partition.
Hyderabad. Okay.
Yeah, they're from Hyderabad, Sindh,
Okay. But they
but
are
they left before partition.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Anyway, I was trying to tie in a Muslim, but here a tie in across the board. So what are some of your? Let's go to Kiki. So tell us some of your drag inspirations.
Oh, um, I'm not sure when you say drag inspirations. Yeah. Anyway, I'll just answer the question the way I think it might be. So,
Yeah,
um,
they don't have
I
to be
don't
drag
think
queens.
I.
They can be anybody. Like who
Yeah,
inspired
exactly,
you to
exactly.
drag? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there was any. I think it's just like as I naturally started when I was 3 or 4. And of course, I didn't know, I wouldn't say of course, but it wasn't something that I continued doing uh, for the longest time. Although in school, I did some dance, but not in drag. And then uh, in my younger years, when I was 16, 17, we were doing some fundraising. Uh, and we, as a family, we decided, I lived with an extended household, to do a show. And so then some lip syncing happened and some drag happened then.
Okay.
So it just was doing stuff. But I would say my drag, if I were to think about how I naturally portray myself, it is a combination of like Lucille Ball, Madhuri Dixit, and Helen.
Oh, what? A,
I'm a mess. I'm an absolute mess in drag.
oh, it sounds beautiful and like juicy. I don't know. I don't think this gets me excited. What a great combination. How about yourself, Mango? Who are your drag inspirations?
um, a lot of like I don't know if they're called period pieces if it's Bollywood. Like you know but like Bajirao Mastani and Devdas, like that kind of style of
Yeah.
Bollywood. Like I like that.
Mhm.
I guess it's more classical. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Traditional, more traditional
Right.
Bollywood.
Mhm.
Um, um, what else? A lot of art inspires me. I used to be a visual artist before I did drag. So like a lot of like colors, like literally any kind of painting, anything like that. Anime inspires me a lot. Um, Song lyrics, because when I listen to a song, I'll take the lyrics literally and then turn it into a look. Like the song Nimura. I turned into a lemon for it. I have a lemon look and
Ooh.
like with a chunni and everything. Like it's really cute. It's
Wow,
funny.
beautiful.
Um, yeah, like I don't I there's so many places you can draw inspiration from. So yeah. There's other queens too, of course. Like I like Raja from Drag Race,
Right.
Kimchi from Drag Race. Yeah.
It's so funny you talk about like Bajra Masani and that. It's like there's such this ultra hyper feminine stuff, but yet you're a drag queen who does it with a beard. I
Yeah.
love the play on that. It's just such a like it's so cheeky.
Yeah. So like I keep my beard because I look disgusting without it. I look like a 16-year-old boy without my beard. So that's the first reason. The second is just to fuck with gender. Like I don't have to abide by anybody's rules. Like facial hair doesn't define someone's femininity or masculinity. So
Right.
it's more of a statement than anything else, I
Yeah, no, I love it. I think again because your references are Bajra Mastani, like again these
think. Right?
hyper
Yeah.
feminized like back in the day, like classical period pieces. Yet
Mhm.
you're like I'm gonna keep it current and contemporary. Um,
Yeah.
So Harsh, you mentioned earlier about like Desh Pradesh. So I know like in the Toronto scene specifically, like we had Desh that had um oh my God, it was in my head 30 seconds ago. So there's Desh that went into Kush. So Kush, Desh, then ASAP. So like, there's been this like almost, you know, I'd say there's been 4 or 5 communities preceding before we got here, before like this generation of people got here, right? So Kush, Desh, then there was ASAP happened out of that. Out of that, like the Somali queers came, Salam came, Rangila happened, but also before Rangila, like
Oh, there was
uh
Besharam
there's
too.
Beshram. Prior to Beshram, there
Yeah.
was Queer Desi Mela. Before that, there was DJ
Funk
Zok,
Asia.
Funk Asia. Like I remember going to the Red Spot, which is like on top of Woody's, a little small space, and there was a lineup of people trying to get in, and that was early 1990s, early 2000s.
Early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And sorry, before that, Funk Asia used to be at the Fly.
Oh wow.
yes. Oh my God. And the Funk Asia at one point was at like the Red Spot. No, the Red Spot was on Church Street.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Whoa, we sound so old. So, there's a huge queer community in Toronto that has existed forever. So Hirsch, tell us about what did your queer drag community look like when you started? In
Um, yeah, so it was mainly through Kush that I met other gay South Asian men. Um, um, it was a small, relatively small community. And I remember we went to, there's a few of these individuals who were the early, I don't know whether they were all founders of Kush, but they were definitely associated with the founding uh, uh, part of the founding group. So there was Deep. So I remember going to his, Deep Khosla, remember going to his place
right.
for a sort of a Kush party. There were lesbians and gay men and all that. And I remember somebody put on, it said, let's dance. And then there was some Indian music that we played. And then, or South Asian music. And then, but a lot of people didn't know how to dance. So we put on this Bhangra video, and so most of them hadn't seen this uh, here, and these Bhangra videos were from the UK. And anyway, we all had a fantastic time. So that was like one of my early experiences of re-engaging in South Asian culture. Like I grew up in Singapore, of course, in a South Asian family and all that, but and had that community. But most of my friends were Chinese, and I identified very much with, the local Singaporean culture. So coming to Toronto actually brought me back to my South Asian roots in more ways than one. I kind of also, I think, rejected my Indianness in when I was in Singapore because of the gay identity. I didn't want to uh, 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 be in that community for fear of being outed within the Sindhi community, Hindu Sindhi community that I kind of grew up in. And so I just rejected it to a certain extent. And most of my friends, eventually I had gay Chinese friends and all that. But anyway, when I came here, I rediscovered my Indianness. So that was, I think, a big grounding back for me, coming here and being engaged with this group, Kush folks. And over time, it grew, it evolved. And then I remember Desh Pradesh. So I think there might have been a Desh Pradesh. So I think it's these. I don't know which came first, but Desh Pradesh is a festival, whereas Kush is a gay support group, South Asian support group. And then there was this Desh Pradesh thing, which was amazing. All these South Asian folks coming, and a lot very artsy types coming from different parts of Canada, US, as well as a few from the UK. It was an amazing experience. I remember a movie that we watched, Baji on the Beach. It was Gurinder Chaddar's, Gurinder Chaddar, the one who did Bend It Like a Beckham?
Yep. Yeah.
One of our first movies, and it played at the Desh Pradesh Festival. It was
Wow.
outstanding. Anyway, it was very, pioneering is, I think, a word that really it felt for us at that time, how it was all growing and evolving. And then ASAP, I think, evolved out of that to support, the AIDS prevention and stuff like that for South Asian. So anyway, so I don't know whether that describes or answers your question, but it just felt very new, very exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys were like a pioneer of communities that got here and then you're like, okay, great, we're gonna grab identity. But it wasn't like, I guess there wasn't enough people to sort of say we're gonna be West Indian, South Asian. Like there wasn't enough to sort of break
Yeah,
into smaller groups. Like it all had to band together.
Mhm.
And
correct.
yeah,
Yeah, and even the men and the women were together at that time,
right,
and then that separated. And then I remember Salam evolved
right,
from there, um, and I think some of us were disappointed, like that we were already small, and now it felt we were going to be smaller because a group went out and started doing their own thing. So it was difficult for some of the members who weren't expecting it. But I see the need for it. Of course, later on, over time, it's like, oh yeah, I guess there's a different level of support required there. So yeah. Anyway, so it was interesting, but it was not without its drama and
right,
its own internal politics, which I wasn't really very much part of the organizing group. Well, I was part of the organizing group in so much as to party, like create party, create fun, and be and be the entertainment occasionally. But I definitely didn't want to be too involved in, you know, the decision making and the politics of it.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you said that from the beginning. You're Kiki Karachi, the party auntie. Like you stayed true to your brand, and you're like, that's all I want to do. Um,
It's
eh,
so cool hearing about this because like
hmm,
I only came around like 4 years ago, right? And like before that, like the Ringila guys, they've told me that there was like a break
yeah,
in between where there were no like active South Asian drag performers or trans women like Sush performing like before before I like he's told me that I'm almost responsible for the like to reigniting the like Desi drag scene in Toronto, which is like such a huge
yeah.
honor if it's true. Um, but like it's just so cool hearing about how it started because
Hmm.
I've never heard like this before, and I've only heard like of the generation before me, so like or the performers before me, so like Sush,
Right.
um, and yeah, and
Yes.
then me, and then now there's a bunch of others after, and like it's just insane.
Well, let's bridge this gap then. So, for people who are out there, like the Queer Archives is doing a really great job of sort of kind of collecting all this information. And like I went in there reading about it, and there's sort of stuff from there's stuff that they're collecting, and I think they're gonna have an online portal where they're collecting our queer history, our queer South Asian Toronto history, which is fantastic because I think there's people like Nelson who've been a part of it for so long, who then became part of Inside Out. There's like our influences are in so many different places that I don't think New York queens know. And
Mhm.
so Shush is one of my sisters where like when I started doing drag, Shush was like all the girls I did drag with transitioned. They all
Mhm.
transitioned. For them, drag was a way for them to transition. For me, it was just a
Yeah.
theater. I was just a theater boy who wanted to play with makeup. And I remember going to a Funk Asia for the first time in what I thought was drag, and all I did was wear chapstick and like eyeliner, and I was like, oh my god, I'm wearing a wig, and I thought, and she was like, come, we're gonna stop at the girls' house before we go over, and I'm like, there's girls? Who are these girls? And I got into the house, and they were just like, oh sister, you can't go out with that. And like by the time I left, like I came in with chapstick and eyeliner with a wig, thinking I was a girl, and I must have worn a dress. And I left with a full face, and I was like, what is this? This is what drag like for me it was drag at that moment, but then for them it was like they were just being women.
Yeah, that was their reality, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I feel like, the point where all this the pioneer started, and then there was this time where like it sort of blew up, where like Funkasia happened, and there's a bunch of Bollywood parties that came up because all the 905 fibers were then excited about the queer scene, and I think Will and Grace and uh, Ellen had come out, so like being more gay South Asian, like all the straights were coming into our space and taking over, and so our dance spaces became less. And then I think, and then entered the years of Rangila. Um, but in between, like the Asian Rangila, there's been at least 4 or 5 different iterations of what the queer brown scene looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, there wasn't like Humza, I have to be honest with you, like so Shush and I would do drag with Shush, and I'd be like, okay, at Pride I have to do it because I want all the little brown boys to know you're a kid, you're allowed to wear a dress, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember World Pride, we're getting ready to go on stage. I looked across and I saw your face, and I was like, motherfucker. And this is at least like I'm like, I'm only gonna do every Pride because I just want to keep it alive and let people know that they can wear dresses.
Mm-hmm.
But it had been at least 3 or 4 years before that where I was like, oh, dude, I'm tired. I don't want to wear heels anymore out to a party. I don't want to be the dancing queen. Or Shush and I like
Yeah.
Shush loved it, and Shush we were just like, we just want to not do the work anymore. And then you showed up and we were like, I don't know who this bitch is. I think Shush knew who you were. I was like, I don't know who this woman is, but like we need to be friends and we need to see where this goes. And I feel
Oh.
like you came on board, and the world works in a different way now. I feel like, Toronto was so different then, and now we're globally available. Even Rangila's global, which
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic. Like
Yeah.
so mind blowing. And I'm glad I don't have to don't have to do drag for Pride anymore because there's a whole set of queens who are coming to do it.
Yeah.
So
That World Pride, I remember it. We ran into each other on the street, right? So she was wearing
yeah,
a
um,
white or silver,
well, that was
something white and silver.
right.
Was
So
that World Pride?
it was World Pride, but it was the night before. It was the evening before where they did this like all drag queens were supposed to come to Dundas Square
Oh
uh,
yeah, I did do that. Oh
and
my
do that,
God.
right? And
Oh
so
my
for
God, yeah.
me, because I was a theater, because I was like, I'm a theater kid, like I'm a dancer, I'm a performer. For me, I was performing on that stage with Bianca Del Rio because Broken Dance, which is another dance company that had
Oh
an
my God,
opportunity
yeah.
to perform, and they were like, Shafik, we want you to be the main queen on the stage. So I was like, fine. Again, for me, it was Pride is the only year that I would get dressed up to do it because I want brown boys to know that they can wear dresses and dance. So I was on stage and remember like waiting in the waiting room, waiting in the side, and looked, and I saw you, and I was like, I don't
I
know
looked
who that
so bad
is.
that day. Oh my God. I was actually like looking through my Instagram and I saw just earlier this week and I saw those photos and I'm like, holy shit, I look so disgusting. I remember exactly what I was wearing.
Was it yellow? I feel like you're wearing something yellow.
I wore a corset, but like my my chest was out and I put gold glitter all over my chest and my
Right, right.
shoulders.
That,
So that's probably why it looked yellow. And I had a
that is.
turban, my makeup was awful. I didn't know how to do eyeshadow. So I would just like put a bunch of eyeliner and glitter. And then I wore pads and like booty shorts or something.
Yeah, I feel like I remember being backstage and seeing it and being like, I don't know who this queen is. Once this performance is over, I need to go find her. And I didn't find her until the next day. But I was
Oh my
like, okay,
God.
yeah. Like then I was like, shush, we need to find this woman quick because there has to be a
The funny thing
handover.
is, the funny thing about that pride, that was just after I came back from LA. So
Oh,
like I was fresh off like the press, I guess,
right.
like because of like all the attention I got there. And then Wasim actually reached out to me and asked if I would MC the brownout stage. And I remember being like, "Oh my God, no, like I'm so scared. I've like this is also new to me and I'm like terrified." And he also asked me to perform at Rangila and I was too scared. And
Well,
almost a year after that, I did my first performance at Rangila.
so let's talk about your like. So, what did the queer drag community look like for you then? So, you've already given sort of a hint into what it is. Tell us more about like what does it look like for
Oh.
you?
Right now,
Yeah, like so
the
from the
queer
for the
South
for the
Asia.
last 4 years for you, I guess would be.
Okay, like the queer Desi scene here.
Yeah.
Um, I I I think it's pretty big, and like there's not. I don't know. It's cliquey. But I guess that's with any community. So like I'm not assigning myself to a clique, but
Bring the drama.
but that's with any community. There's like it's big enough now that there's cliques, which I think is a great thing. Like to have that many queer South Asian people who are uh, out. I hate using that word because like I don't think your worth is determined on you being out or not. So like by out I mean being able to go to Rangila and like network with other queer Desi people. Um, yeah, it's like I find it incredible that it's big enough to have cliques now. But yeah, I also like how like when I'm at a space where it's predominantly queer Desi people, there's like a sense of unity. And I don't really find that when I'm out in other places, like if I'm at Cruise or if I'm at Woody's or whatever. Like I don't find the same like warmth there.
So, Harsha, if you felt that way as well, like I feel like for me, Funk Asia was that place. It was that one place where I got to be queer, I got to be brown, I got to dance with all my brown fags, and I got to be like, oh, like we're gonna like and we got to do Bollywood, we got to like funky, like you got to wear jeans with a top or a broad top, like
Oh
we
my
got to
God.
do those things, and it was so amazing. It sounds like they sort of had that moment as well for you. Was that what it felt like back then?
Yeah, so again, Desh was a specific festival at
Right.
one time. Maybe they had another time before I arrived in Canada, but just a couple that I experienced. Oh, and so yeah, so those 2 or 3 days of South Asian programming,
Oh,
whether it's film, art, and of course dances, I hosted at my place. The first night welcome dance or whatever, which of course I also Kiki Karachi also performed along with one or two other drag friends. Anyway, it was outstanding. It was so much fun. So absolutely, like I felt, we just felt we could be ourselves. And as I said, I re-grounded myself in South Asian ness. I found a part of myself that maybe I had overlooked or rejected a little bit for a number of years. So it was absolutely fantastic. And then, but aside from the festival moments, uh, how would I? We didn't have the fundraiser came much later. So we used to have our own parties. And absolutely, while I, of course, I should say, while I also enjoyed my other Toronto friends, and I had a great time with them. Hosting, I often hosted, hosting or going to other South Asian uh, parties had a very different feel to it. Um, yeah, definitely very warm and definitely feeling of being at home in so many ways, along with the music and everything else. And then eventually Funk Asia came along. Zara started that. Fantastic, and she invited Kiki to perform uh, for I think its first anniversary or something like that at the Fly. So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Can we just um, have a moment of silence for Fly and Fly 2.0? Because I
So
don't know
bad.
about you guys, but like this last year, I especially missed it so much. I would like hear like electronic music outside while at Trinity and be like, oh fuck, I miss Fly.
I mean, if we're gonna say that, like, can we also moment out for Club 120, which is closed
Oh,
down,
Club
which means
120, yeah.
Rangila's gone.
Oh
Like,
my God.
oh, I don't like. Can we bring back the old school festivals back? Like, I want a 3-day South Asian gay festival where I mean, I'm not in Toronto right now, but I will come down to Toronto, rent a house, host people, like, and then we
That'd
can
be
just
so fun.
like, I don't know, it's some that would be like, let's bring that back, and then let's end with a Rangila in someone's backyard, outdoors, under a tent, like a shadi party, but all Rangila, all queer boy, all queer people. Ah, dancing to Bollywood.
Another thing I like about the community here is that we're um, so well known in other queer Desi circles in other cities. So
Yeah.
like the New York scene with like Sholay and the parties that they throw. I was invited to perform not last year, 2019 Pride.
Right.
I think it was World Pride in New York. So yeah, they invited me out, and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Rangila and like the community here. So like it's just nice to see that we're like even before COVID, we were going global.
Oh, 100%. I feel like it wasn't online, but like we have roots in Boston. Like we have oh my God, I forgot our auntie. Like I feel like the Queen's back. So I
Or
mean Harish, I
Chicago
think
too.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Neither in Chicago. I think Harish talked about this idea that like because we didn't have our own scenes everywhere else, people would come here. And I remember like in Toronto, I know like there's Chicago, New York, like some of the queens from New York would come here. Like and then there's the bonding that happened that wasn't like 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 I feel like the Rangila DJs and the Cholet DJs also knew each other. Like
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right? Because Adit
It's
or
Amit. He's like
Amit.
so good. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to take our hats off to these amazing individuals at that time. Karim, Nelson, Deep, they were all part of
Yes.
it. I forget exactly who was the actual organizer and all, but they plus a few others. I think there was an Ian Rashid as well, who now lives in the UK. But it was their genesis, like it was their idea to do this,
Yeah.
and they created this whole thing. I mean, they were all like volunteers. I mean, they all had full-time jobs,
Right.
and they just did this to get more visibility, more togetherness, and create that space. It's outstanding. I don't know how they did it, but they did. Yeah.
And that I feel like even in that time, like you talk about, like so even I think when I talked to Karim Ladik about this, like he used to go to Bombay for work or Mumbai for work and throw parties there in his apartment because he was he had his own apartment and he didn't have his family there, but most queer people in India live with their families. So I've heard from like the Bombayites of that time where they'd be like, oh yeah, we used to go to Karim's house and have a gay party all night. But so they would they would start the party after his maid left and they would end it before she came back so that she wouldn't know who was
Oh my
there.
god.
I know. And I was like, what? So like I
Yeah.
mean, my goal is first to get all these people in and like to have this conversation with the Karns, the Nelsons, because
Yeah.
those are also the guys who started ASAP, who then again funded our brothers and sisters who were HIV positive at that time, who needed the support. And then also like and through ASAP came like all the boys who were doing Rangila, all worked at ASAP and all did it because they wanted to find a way, one, to have a party, two, to give back to their community. This is such a this thread of like where we were and who we got there it's literally a 1 degree of separation, which I love and it makes me super excited.
Yeah.
Um,
And when Karim came back to Toronto, because he was in Mumbai for a number of years, and anyway, when he was here, the years that he was here while he was still working at Procter and Gamble, he used to throw, uh, I think it was Christmas Eve, uh, parties for all those of us who had no families to visit with, right? Or to celebrate Christmas with in that
right.
way. So it used to be almost like an well, not quite an open house, but really the word went out to most South Asian boys and girls. And used to have probably, depending on which home we're talking about 100 people or so. And of course he invited Kiki each and every one of those years to perform. So yeah, no, a lot of people met there. Anyway, lots of fun at those parties. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I want this to continue. I feel like once this pandemic is over, we need to have one of these parties. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like let's throw back and let's get all our pioneers together with our newcomers and let's do this in person and let's just like oh, I don't know, just like live this moment. Like our community is so rich and has so much to offer, and so much has happened since 1999 to now, and we don't know. Like we all don't know about it yet. And I want to. I don't know. I'm excited about just making sure that everybody hears about it and we get to know about it, and then like the Humzas of the world get to ask, like the Mangoes of the world get to ask the Kikis of the world the question that you want to ask,
Yeah.
and share, yeah, and perform. Like if we can do a generational, not even like it doesn't have to be a perform, but a generational photo of all the South Asian drag queens from then to now.
Oh my god, it's like that Rangila poster of me and Sush.
Yeah. But
That
it has
was
Kiki Karachi on
that
it.
was like iconic. I know because it
Yeah.
was like two generations of
Yeah.
performers, and like we just need that. We need a little bit more. We need like a new photo shoot.
Oh my God, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
So we have a minute before the bell. So giving back to community, why is that important? Let's start with you, Mango.
Because of stories like this, the origin stories, I think they're important, and they add value to why I do drag and why I'm going to continue to advocate for queer Desi people, and I don't know, be a voice in the community. Um, and I think other newer queens should take note. Like stuff like this is important. Your history is important, and it'll stop your ego dead in its tracks
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
How about you, Kiki? Why is giving back to the community so important to you?
I can't even describe it. I think it's just natural to share. If you have good fortune, if you have good things going, it's important to share it. And I'm not talking about money, just sharing the good energy in whichever way, shape, or form that is right for you. Some people do certain kind of organizational work. Some people do some labor kind of work, and some people just dance. So and share it that way. So and if that helps others, then that's amazing.
No, I think you're both right. Like, I think let's keep the conversation going. Like, it's so important for us to give back to the community because it's provided so much to us, and it will continue to provide so much for us and whoever gets to come through. So, like as I said to you guys earlier before we even started recording, that the reason I did this podcast was because of something that happened last year at Pride, that a New York queen disrespected our community, and I was so mad about it. And I was like, fucking beep, 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 beep. Because my mom listens to this, though I think my mom's already heard me say some of these words. And it made me
Well, you did say fucking and then beep, beep, beep.
Or,
so I don't know if it gets worse than that.
oh, it does. It does.
Oh, it does.
This kuti haramzad. No.
Oh my God.
But for me, like I was mad for a month, and I was like, you know what? Then I was like, oh, she doesn't know. She just doesn't know who paved her way for her or what came before her. And like I've been lucky enough to be in a few moments with you, Mango, and been like, oh, this queen gets it. And then when this other queen didn't get it, I was like she needs to know. And then Kern was like, Dr. Kiki, and I was like, damn, like, I think letting our newer queens and also our older queens know, or our pioneer queens know that this is what's happening and how we're moving forward. Like we just don't have our stories with each other, right? And it's great to be able to share these stories. What would you tell the next generation of queens coming up? If you had one thing to tell them, what would you tell them? Mango.
I get these DMs all the time. So it's just a reality now that like there is a newer like a pod of queens coming up,
What's the one bit of advice you give them then?
Be honest with yourself. Because when I started drag, I shaved my beard, and I like tried to be all like super feminine and I don't know, like any other village queen, and it didn't work because it wasn't what I envisioned my drag to be. It was what society and what Drag Race and what the community was telling me to be. But yeah, be honest with yourself, be honest with your art.
And how about you, Kiki? What would you tell our up and coming?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking, is just be yourself. And just be who you are. And life is a journey of discovery as well. And we are also constantly changing as time goes on. So it's okay to experiment. What was right for us last year may not be right for us this year. Or like 10 years, especially if it was 10 years ago, may not be right. So I encourage people to experiment and see what works for them, and just tap into their inner wisdom and see what they're feeling. If they try something and it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel good, okay, learn from that and maybe try something else. So, yeah.
And another thing, and it like just goes back to this whole discussion that we just had: respect your elders. I know that sounds like old school of me or whatever, but like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the people before us. So have some respect for the performers and the drag queens and the trans women who paved this path for you.
And there's so many that did pave the path that we don't even know about, that we don't have access to, that we like, like we haven't tapped into them yet. So yeah, 100%. Thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules to chat with me about this. Like it makes my heart smile to be able to get like to put this out there and just let people know that listen, like we have such a rich history of queens in Toronto doing stuff and continuing to do stuff. So thank you both for that. I just want to tell everybody, I want to tell everybody out there, thank you for taking time of their time. Let's do this one more time. Thank our audience for taking time out of their busy schedule to join us as we chatted with Miss Kiki Karachi and Miss Mango Lasi. We'll speak with you bitches soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Namaste.